Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't know me, I'm Margaret Mueller. I'm the president and the CEO of the Executives Club of Chicago. Thank you for joining us at this completely sold out event with a waiting list of people begging to get in this morning. It was really great. I know we let a few of you in, so glad we were able to do that. And is this not the best lunch ever you've had at an Exec Club event? I mean, nothing against the hotel chicken salads. I mean, those are nice too, but this is really wonderful. And thank you so much to Michael and the Portillo's team for providing lunch for us. So generous. Thank you so much. I also want to thank our host and our presenting sponsor of our Chicago CEO series, KPMG, and our featured sponsor, the Chicago Cubs. Thank you, KPMG, for hosting us in this beautiful space. Thank you, Cubs, for all that you do for us too. And then we have all of our amazing season sponsors. They sponsor our entire season at the club. We could not do any of this without our sponsors. Like, you know, we're a nonprofit. They really fund everything we do. So everything that we're able to do for you is because of all of our sponsors. So thank you all so much. So you're all in for a real treat today, because today you get not one, but two incredible CEOs in conversation together. And these companies are Chicago brands who have touched all of our lives for many, many years. I grew up on Portillo's. My kids are obsessed with Portillo's. They're very jealous of me. We've eaten so much Levy food at so many games that we have gone to. And so this is just neat. Like, you both have done so much and such important Chicago brands. And to have this conversation is such a treat for everyone. I also want to put in a plug for our podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, it's consistently in the top 10% of business podcasts. It's doing really well. And we did feature Andy on one of our podcasts. So check out his episode. You can get it on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And this conversation will also be on our podcast in a few weeks. So want to give a plug for that. You should definitely check it out. And you all should have a program at your seat. We're going digital. We're not doing these big programs anymore. So there's a QR code. You can scan it for digital access to the program. You'll learn a lot more about today's event, speakers, and all of that, and then also instructions on how to submit questions to our speakers. I know they are not at a loss of things to talk about, but Andy will do his best to try to get to some of your questions, so feel free to text those in. So that's it. Get back to eating and socializing, and then in a few minutes, Linda and Monty from KPMG will be back to introduce our speakers. So until then, enjoy your Portillo's lunch.
I am Linda Imonti. I'm the office managing partner here for our Chicago region. We are a proud sponsor of the Executive Club Chicago CEO Series. And I just want to talk for a minute. We've got a lot of folks here that really look out for our community out there and spend a lot of time giving back to the community. I think every one of you in this room are probably involved in some way in our community, as our two guests are today. And we had the opportunity this year to celebrate our 125th anniversary for the firm. And in doing that, we dedicated ourselves to a day of service. And so what we experienced in the firm is that, you know, here in the Chicagoland area, we had 2,000 people that volunteered their time. We had 6,000 hours that were volunteered across American Red Cross, Big Shoulders Fund, Boys and Girls Club, Chicago Public Libraries, and Greater Chicago Food Depository. And I'm sure I am referencing organizations that a number of you, as well as I know both of your organizations, are involved in. So I want to thank not only my team that's here that did that, but all of you, because I really believe we make a difference in Chicago, and we're going to hear some more about that today from these two folks. So we have a short video we're going to play just about KPMG, and then I want to take a minute and do a brief introduction, and then we'll kick off. All right, let me introduce two outstanding leaders from our Chicago community here. I'd first like to introduce the CEO of Portillo's, Michael Osanloo. Michael is responsible for the overall brand strategy, as we would all imagine, the business performance, and also the company's growth. But Michael is a very passionate leader who has not only allowed for success of the business, but has also created an environment that affords every team member the opportunity to grow within the company. Since joining Portillo's, Michael was named one of 10 business leaders that could change Chicago's business world by the Chicago Tribune. So talking about having an impact on our community, that's amazing. Leading us today in the discussion is another phenomenal leader from our community here, Andy Lansing, the CEO of Levy. I know that everybody wants to hear the stories. I know I can see everybody's enjoying the food, and it smells better on this floor than I've ever smelled it. So, Andy, I'm going to hand it over to you and Michael. Welcome.
Thank you,
Linda.
Thank you. Well, hey everyone. This is a lot of fun. Michael and I just want to make it clear we both know that the reason most of you are here is because of the lunch, not because you have any interest in what we have to say, and I get that. Michael, this is really a treat for me because I've been a fan of yours and Portillo's for a long time, and it's interesting because you and I actually have a lot in common, surprisingly. We're both Michigan Wolverines.
Go Blue.
So sorry, I know that's polarizing, but it was a good week for us. Let us enjoy it while we can.
It's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. We both went to law school and practiced law.
Yeah.
Who knew? The last thing that either of us ever thought was that we were going to be in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
It's that great line from the John Lennon song, "Life is what happens when you're busy making plans." Here you go. We're both part of Chicago brands who have gone national and global and have had the challenges that come with that, and we've reaped the benefits of that. But I think maybe most importantly what we have in common is we both frickin' adore hot dogs. I mean, we love hot dogs.
100%, Andy.
And the only way I can prove that to you, and we've got some of the Levy folks here, they know, I'm on average, I eat, no kidding, 3 hot dogs a week, because I will eat a hot dog the first thing I do when I go to any of our stadiums or arenas. That's sort of my litmus test. If I taste the hot dog and the bun's done right and the condiments are done right, I know that things generally going to be okay. I actually have a podcast at Levy for our 50,000 internal team members called Hot Dogs with Andy. So I know my hot dogs, so you met your match.
I'm a little intimidated.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm a hot dog guy. But no, in fairness, it's interesting. As somebody asked earlier, I think Margaret, it would be fascinating to compare how many hot dogs in a year we each sell. And I have no idea. I know that at Wrigley we probably sell 1.2 million a year. I think at Dodger Stadium we sell 1.5 million a year. We sell a lot of hot dogs, but you guys sell a ton of hot dogs. Do you have any sense as to...
I do. I want to shout out to my friends over at Vienna Beef sitting right over there, because they're the ones who make our hot dogs. And as you guys all know, a Portillo's hot dog is an iconic, special thing. So here's the fun fact. I like to think of it this way. Every week, we sell the equivalent of 110 Willis Towers of hot dogs. So if you stacked our hot dogs end to end, 110 Willis Towers. That's a lot of hot dogs.
Drop the mic.
That's a lot of hot dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We listen. Let's get into it. I guess let's start a little bit at the beginning. When you were young, as I said, you certainly didn't see yourself doing this. What did you think you wanted to do when you grew up?
Honestly, I'm waiting to be able to answer that question at some point because I feel like I'm still growing up. As a kid, I don't think I had any imagination for what I wanted to do. I went to college. When I was at Michigan, I actually majored in cellular molecular biology for 3 years because I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And then I got to hospitals and I realized, oh my God, they're all sick people and they're dying. I want no part of this. This is like emotionally distressing. I test well. I took the LSATs. I went to law school. I loved law school, but I did not like who I was becoming practicing law. I was an employment litigator, and I found that for me, litigation brought out the dark side of my personality. and I did not like that. And I told people, I was like, I want to be part of building something. I think there's this strange dynamic in my personality that I like taking care of people, and I like helping other people be successful. And I said, I'm just going to go to business school. I want to go run something. Everybody told me, you're an idiot. Like, you're a good litigator. You won't be good at business. But I think that's what it was. It was just a fundamental understanding that what's going to make me personally happy is part of building something, leading something, and helping other people be successful.
So after business school, talk to us a bit about your journey through P.F. Chang's and the restaurant industry, and finally how you ended up at Portillo's.
My first job out of business school was at Bain & Company. I don't know if any of my colleagues are here from Bain, but I loved Bain. It's for those of you who don't know, it's a strategy consulting firm, and I was actually right down the road here. I learned a ton. I learned a ton about business, but I also learned a ton about what I love in running an organization. It's a meritocracy. It's a place that you are very much in service to the people in the front lines. It's a place where you try to drive to results. And it's a place that it's deeply embedded in the culture to have fun at work. Yeah. Like it's not bad to have, it's a good thing to have fun. And so I loved Bain, I loved the culture, but I always felt like I'm on the sidelines, I'm giving advice to people who are playing in the game, and my personality is, give me the ball, coach. I want to be in the game. And I left, I went to Harrah's Entertainment, who was a client of mine. It's a big casino company. I went and ultimately I ran Atlantic City, and I learned so much because I was a horrible leader, right? Like when you look back in your career, I do this. I look back and I think, man, I really sucked at that. Oh, I was terrible at this. And I see it now crystal clear, and I see how much my bosses, my mentors invested in me and taught me. And so I learned a lot about leadership because I wasn't good at it. And I got a lot out of that. And then I went to Kraft Foods, had a great experience at Kraft. My time at Kraft, I ran the grocery business, but it naturally evolved into I really just wanted to run something. And I loved the food business. So I went to the front edge of the food business, which is restaurants. And the first thing I did is I went and ran P.F. Chang's in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I still have soy in my blood from P.F. Chang's. Wonderful experience. And then the opportunity to run Portillo's came up. And it's funny because most people who don't really know Portillo's were like, you're crazy. You got, like, P.F. Chang's an international business. It's beautiful restaurants, $1 billion of sales, your CPG business. Why would you go to like this little Midwestern thing?
So there you go. There's my next question. What was it about that opportunity that you said, oh, that's for me?
You guys, you go to Portillo's. Raise your hand if you or your family loves Portillo's, right? This is it. It's a sleeping giant of a brand, right? And I looked at it, and it was like the private equity firm, they had some fits and starts. And the real question with Portillo's is, can Portillo's be a national concept, right? We all know that it works in Chicago, there's no doubt. We, I think, in our guts, all know and understand that the food will translate, right? It's not, I'm not gonna have a hard time selling beef sandwiches and hot dogs to people in Texas. This is gonna be fine, right? And so that was the question. Can this go outside of Chicagoland? If it can, this is the next Chick-fil-A. It's the next major restaurant company. And to me, how exciting is it to go take, at the time, like 45 restaurants and build it into a public company and then take it into a national powerhouse and a beloved investment of the investor base.
So when you looked at it, Michael, remind everyone the state of the company at the time. Privately owned, founder involved. You said 45-ish locations at the time. Yeah. What was the state of Portillo's when you joined?
Right. But this is also, by the way, a great piece of career advice. Portillo's was doing very poorly. Never go somewhere that's really just killing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Pick your time and your place. And so the company was struggling, had 8 quarters of negative comp. Turnover was getting to be ridiculously high. New restaurants built were struggling. And so it was, I was the 3rd CEO since Berkshire had bought it in 2014. I joined in 2018. That's a really good time. If you fundamentally, you have to divorce yourself from the existing performance and say, what do I think of this business? Like look at it objectively in a fact-based way. And I could say unrivaled AUVs, right? Average unit volumes, like ridiculous volumes. Amazing margins, beloved iconic brand, and that I believe that this menu will translate. And the fact that it's not performing well to me is like, oh my gosh, that's great. It's even more opportunity. And so I was super excited.
And tell everyone a bit about the dynamics of a founder
Yeah.
over time, letting go, how easy or hard that is. I certainly have had my experience with Larry Levy,
Yeah.
such a high-profile, amazing restaurateur, entrepreneur, and sort of it going from a family-owned
Yeah.
into such a big business. But you
Yeah.
obviously saw a lot of that.
Well, I'd be curious your perspective. Look, first, Dick Portillo's story it's like a perfect example why America's the greatest country, right? He came out of the military with $1,100 in his pocket, literally opened what we call the doghouse. We have like images of it. It's a shack with no running water. And he's made himself, close to $1 billion. It's incredible. And it's a testimony to hard work and passion and resilience. And he, Dick's a tough guy. And I think letting go of the business is never easy, right? It's never easy. Like when Dick sold the business, he sold the business. He didn't keep any investment in the business. He helped for the first few years with my predecessors on doing, a lot of stuff. And I interviewed with Dick. I wanted to get to know him. I wanted to see like what he thinks is the secret sauce to Portillo's. Yeah, you want to understand this. And I admire everything that he's done, but it's a different stage. I could never have done what Dick did. That's just not in my DNA to go from zero to here. My DNA is much more about take this and make it enormous. And so I deeply respect the brand essence and what he's done, but at some point then you say, and here's how we get to the next stage.
And a lot of founders fight that.
It's
don't
hard.
they?
It's hard to let go. I'm very respectful because his name is on the doors,
Yeah.
right? But I'm also very mindful that I have a responsibility to the 8,000 people that work at Portillo's now, the hundreds and thousands of investors that we have, and to the future. So I think it's important to always honor the past and know where you're from and understand that, but you can't live beholden to it.
And I think that I got lucky with Larry because Larry was, to your point you mentioned earlier, Larry knew that he got us from here to here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure anybody else could have done that. Certainly I couldn't have.
Right.
But he also was really honest about the fact that he could not take it from here beyond. And I think half the battle with founders is just admitting where you're good, where
Right.
maybe you need help, and letting
Right.
go, which I would think emotionally is not easy.
No, I don't think so. Because, as a founder too, right? You had everybody
Your
tell
name's
you.
on the door, saying Levy,
Yeah.
Portillo, that's the way.
And can you imagine how many times these guys were told, oh, you're never going to succeed. This is never going to happen. So you have to have this incredible conviction that you can do almost anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you look at Portillo's, and how long did it take you to say, all right, these are the top 3 things I need to do right away?
Yeah.
I know you were drinking from the proverbial fire hose, but was it
Yeah.
evident to you what needed to happen right away?
I'm a huge believer in primary knowledge. So learning for myself, right? I listen to what everybody on my team says, but then, I've learned over time that you probably know this. People like to treat the boss. The more senior you get, the more people want to treat you like you're a mushroom, right? And you know how you grow mushrooms? You farm mushrooms in dark places, and you give it a lot of fertilizer. So they want to keep you in the dark and feed you BS that they think makes you happy. And so I don't want to be a mushroom. So I love spending time in the restaurants and seeing things firsthand. So my first 30 days at Portillo's, I went to my office, met the staff, talked to them, 2 days. And then the remaining 28 days, I was in restaurants. I worked, I went in and opened to see what we do, worked lunch shifts, worked closes, went to different restaurants, big, small, medium-sized restaurants, dual units that have a bar. I just want to learn everything. And it became really clear to me that we had lost our way. You know, I had this seminal moment where I walked into one of our really big restaurants, and I'm in there, it's like 7:45 in the morning. And this is a restaurant that does 12 million of sales. It's generating like $3 million of cash flow, right? That's a business. That's a legitimate business by itself. And I go into the GM's office, and he's sitting there like this, his hand on his head, staring down at these PowerPoint slides. And I was like, "What's going on, bub? What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I gotta fill out this like monthly business evaluation and do like a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness." Restaurant GM is not equipped for this, right? This is stuff that had been put. It's all well-intentioned. We want to understand his business, understand his P&L. All well-intentioned stuff that is distracting him from coaching and managing his team and taking care of the guests. Because in our business, all I want a GM to do is take care of your team, coach them, manage them, staff them right, recruit. It's a people business. And then when you have extra time, go spend time with the guests. The idea that this guy is like putting together a mini strategy, which is a nightmare for him. It's like he's spending weeks on this, and he knows he's going to look bad doing it. It's just not his skill set. So I honestly, it was addition by subtraction. I went through and I compiled all of the tasks that my GMs were doing in a given week, and I identified everything that I felt was administrative, and I cut 30 hours a week of administrative work. Like they were working 20 hours a week to run the business, 30 hours on nonsense. And I said, one, I don't want you to work like 40, 45 hours. It's not that I'm lazy, but I want you fresh. And then I don't want you wasting any of your time on this administrative stuff. I want you to spend all your time on your frontline team members. I don't call them employees, they're team members. You know, I don't call our restaurants are restaurants. They're not stores, they're restaurants. And I want you spending all your time on the people here because this is how I know, you know, if Portillo's is doing well, it's not because of me. It's not because of the GM. It's because the person at front order, you know, if you ordered a beef sandwich, they say, "Would you like it with peppers?" Peppers are really good on it. If you don't know, our chocolate cake, homemade every single day in our restaurants, best darn chocolate cake you're ever gonna have. I want that experience, right? I want happy team members who are taking care of our guests, because then when the guest is happy, the investor is happy.
Well, I think, isn't that the old adage? My guys, Levy folks who are here know that, you know, they'll hear this from me all the time. There's so many leadership books. There's so many advice. It boils down to this. Our team members are going to treat the guests the exact same way we treat them.
Right.
That's all it boils down to. You could save yourself thousands and thousands of books of reading.
Yeah.
That's the essence of hospitality. Well, and companies like ours and others sometimes get clumsy, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's this divide between the home office and the field, right? The field thinks those people in the ivory tower, if they only knew what it was like in the rice paddies of this war right now, they wouldn't ask us to do that.
Totally.
Right? And the home office is saying, I don't understand why won't they just do what I ask them to do. And it came to life for me. We have a thing at Levy called Founders Day where once a year all of us go into the units and work. And I don't mean just like, hey, there's Andy, let him make a hot dog. I mean, I'm a dishwasher, I'm a host. And one of my early ones, I was a host at one of our busiest restaurants. And the phone rang. And I mean, it is insane in this restaurant. I pick up the phone. Hello, you know, so-and-so, this is Andy Land. How may I help you? Hey, it's Bill from the home office. Can you check and give us a count on how many, whatever? And I'm like, you didn't just call here during my lunch rush, did you? You did not just ask me that question.
Yes.
And it was like, go back to the office. Okay, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So it is interesting how we unintentionally get to a place where we get in the way of, as opposed to empowering people just to give them the tools and get the hell out of their way.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, it's funny because you know, I spent my time in the field. I went back to and I changed what we called it the corporate office. I said, no, we're changing the name. We're going to call we are the Restaurant Support Center. And you know, it's one of those things. It's a psychological thing. But here's what's funny. You get some negative feedback from people that, well, you know, I don't really like that. I feel like we're the headquarters. I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to like working with me. because I feel like we're the restaurant support center.
You only have a job because of those people in the field.
There's no POS, there's no point of sale system in Oak Brook. We don't make any money here, okay? We are a cost center. We live in service to the people in the front line who are actually paying all of the bills.
How many guests walk through your resource center? Zero.
Zero.
They're all in the restaurants, which is where all the action and emphasis should be.
Occasionally a couple, but that's a different experience.
Different story.
Different story.
So what kind of, without getting obviously into specifics, what kind of team did you inherit?
Yeah.
And what was your vision of, hey, I need to bring in people who think like I do.
Yeah.
I want to test drive these folks for a while. What was the management team build up like?
It's a great question. I'm a huge believer in teams. I mean, like everybody says this, right? No one says, no, I hate teams. I like to do it myself. I genuinely think that any two people on my team is smarter than any one person. I believe that you can take a bunch of, there's something that happens when you put 5 great people together who have a similar value system, who like working together, that's infinitely better than the 5 individuals, right? You guys all get that. And so for me, the foundation is I want great values first and foremost. I hire based on people's value system. I don't want, like, you can have the most talented individual in the world who is divisive. I've made this mistake. Hire like supreme talent, but not a good team player. It destroys a team. So I look for values first, and I believe in people who have a family-based approach to things. I want people who aspire to being great, not good. Like people who just have that itch, like I just want to keep getting better. I want people who like to have fun at work, like are loose and relaxed and a little cheeky and irreverent. And so I went about assembling that team. And so, I wanted a world-class, I start with people. So the first job I upgraded was my HR partner, because I need a partner. I need someone who's got the same vision, who wants to build this team. But so we've gone through and we've replaced people. Like, when I replaced our COO, in this industry, like in the restaurant industry, it's an interesting dynamic. There's some guys like Andy and I, and then there's a lot of guys and gals who spent like 30 years growing up in the business. And sometimes when you do that and you don't have other perspectives, you become a hammer, and no matter what the problem is, you see it as a nail. And so I spent a year running operations myself while I looked for the perfect operations person.
And you can see that. And you referenced organizations. I remember when I took over at Levy a long time ago, it was that dilemma of, well, our head of purchasing was somebody who had worked with us for 10 years as a server in a restaurant and just decided the next step was purchasing. And one day I was like, Larry, I don't know. It's none of my business. I just don't understand. Like, should we be buying 12 different olive oils or like if we combine them, wouldn't we get better pricing? And yeah, go fix it. And our head of HR, similarly, people who grow up with the brand, it's hard.
Right.
But you probably had some that survive because it's like building a baseball team. You got to get it from the farm system. You got to bring in free agents. How did you see that combination?
Well, and I would add to that, like, I believe that institutional knowledge is actually very important to the soul of an organization. Right? And so there's this balancing act, like I want to keep the soul of who Portillo's is. I just want to contemporize it and scale it and take it everywhere. And so I was very conscious of, you can't replace everyone. You have to find people that are historians, but the thing is, I wanted people who had understood the history of the company, had one foot in the past, but are willing to put one foot in the future. Like, you got to be careful, right? Because you're always going to run into people who say, oh, we tried that back in '94, it doesn't work. It's like, okay, well, it's 2020, the world has changed, and we can do it differently. Does that mean it was a bad idea, or we badly executed? So I'm a huge believer. We've been able to bring along a number of people who understand the history of Portillo's, understand the soul of Portillo's, but also understand what the future will be like, and are very helpful along that way.
It's more art than science, right?
Yeah.
It sounds really easy to do, but to get that blend and that institutional knowledge and sort of the heart and soul of the company, while not having the people say, just lay low, this dude's going to go away. It's like everyone's
people say that, right?
Of course, yeah. We're gonna outlast them though. I got my guys. I beat them down enough. Like,
You've been there a while. I haven't.
well, my theory is beatings will continue till morale improves. And
Yes.
so we've got that going for us. So share with us. You've got such an iconic brand.
Yeah.
What were the opportunities and challenges in bringing that sort of local flair national? Because you say,
Yeah.
hey, I know Italian beef would be popular in Texas. I'm not sure I would have known that before The Bear, right? We all watched The Bear, and Italian beef
Yeah.
has a whole new meaning in the country. But
Yeah.
like, what worked here did everything here work? Like, do people like their dogs dragged through the garden in Texas?
So, yeah, actually. So, a couple little fun facts. It doesn't matter where you go to Portillo's, whether it's in California, Arizona, Florida. The number one thing we sell is Italian beef. The number two thing we sell are our hot dogs, and then our French fries. And it's eerily similar product mix. Eerily similar. I think that, and I think it's a question everybody asks. Will you sell Italian beef? Like, we had investors who were dubious. So we have a food vending truck, the Beef Bus, and we shipped it to Boston and shipped it to Manhattan. We had it in the middle of Times Square during our IPO. Investors, when they'd eat an Italian beef sandwich, I had like one analyst take a bite and he's like, oh yeah, oh people will eat this everywhere, won't they? I'm like, yeah, it's a roast beef sandwich, right? Some people call it French dip with au jus. I mean, it's like, it's beef and bread. It seems to work in America.
Anything fall on its face? Like, is there anything that you thought was going to work, and you're like, oh my God, I misread that one?
I mean, no, the heart of the menu is the heart of the menu. Now, where we have made mistakes, okay? Because I saw this. We built restaurants under my predecessors in Minnesota that just didn't work. And it's always the same root cause when you go back. You put in this new concept, you get unbelievable trial. Like, we had lines outside the door, but you had a team that had no idea what they were doing. You had a general manager that doesn't understand what a Portillo should be like. And so you just fall on your face when you're delivering the experience.
So more execution led to failure as opposed to, hey, this is a wrong city, it'll never fly here.
Totally. And so my learning from this is, and the discipline that we have with, my executive team hold hands on this, is we're not opening a Portillo's unless we've identified an experienced general manager to run it. So I want somebody who's run a Portillo's independently for at least a year before we're opening. So we're opening this month 2 new restaurants in Arizona, our first one in Texas, and another one in Orlando. Texas. One of our best GMs, she was just recently running Addison and Kimball for us. She's a bilingual woman. She's going to be a rock star, Texas. The multi-unit person we have there is our best multi-unit person. She's been with Portillo's for 14 years. She knows what a Portillo's is supposed to be like. The management team beneath them, 70% of them are deeply experienced Portillo's people. So what I feel good about...
You stack the deck.
Yeah, well, you should, right? It's an insurance policy. And so the people in Texas, their first experience is going to be, our food is going to be spot on, but the experience is going to be what a Portillo's is. And the culture there will be what a Portillo's is. And so that's how I de-risk growth, and that's when I feel good about where we're opening.
And share with us vision you can for, you see Portillo's here in terms of number of units, you see it where,
Yeah.
a couple years down the road. How long do you look out?
I look, so I got to be careful what I say because this is material non-public information. It's not. I'm going to tell you public information, but like...
We're not going to tell anyone.
Yeah. So look, I'm a data guy. I spent like 10 years at Bain & Company. I love facts and data. So I use a couple of different companies that do these kind of things. They look at, they run these huge multivariate regressions to say where will your restaurant succeed, here's the likelihood of success, here's how much revenue it will do. And I said, I want at least $6 million in revenues and none within 5 miles of each other, okay? They came back, they're like, it can be well over 600 restaurants in the US. That doesn't include airport locations, universities, small formats, drive-through only formats, and it doesn't include any international franchises. So I think we're at least 600 full-size Portillo's in the US and. That's what full potential
Hell
is.
of a runway in front of you.
It is. It'll be fun.
We're starting to get some questions coming in, so again, I'd remind you folks to text in your questions. I'm going to hit mine and them, and we'll kind of. Although I worry when questions come in like this. I did one of these a couple weeks ago, and the first question that popped up was, Andy, what kind of product do you use in your hair? And I thought like, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
Should I not have asked that?
I don't think it was right. Oh, that was you. Yeah. Share with us a bit about the COVID journey, which obviously hit the hospitality industry. I know it well, right between the eyes.
Yeah.
What did it look like in your world? Was it different because of all your drive-throughs and pickups, delivery? Like, what did COVID look like as you look in the rearview mirror? Hopefully.
This is going to sound incredibly strange to say. I think COVID accelerated our evolution as a company. Because, COVID happens, we all know, in restaurant dining shut down. We were all freaked out. First we thought it's only be a couple weeks, then a couple months, then maybe through the end. And it just kept going. But it was actually an opportunity for us to stick to our values and to prove to ourselves and our team members that we are a values-led organization. So our internal values are family, greatness, energy, and fun. And you know what we didn't do during COVID? We didn't lay off a single person. I got 8,000 people, vast majority of whom are hourly frontline team members. We didn't lay off a single person. We used that time, and then our restaurants were shut down. Our dining rooms were shut down. So we pivoted purely to a drive-through model and a delivery model. We used the time during COVID to cross-train people. So if you know our places, like there's a beef station where they're making beef. Next to them is an area we call table, which is where they're making hot dog. There's a little table. And so if you knew beef, we trained you on table. If you knew how to take orders inside the restaurant, we taught you how to take orders outside the restaurant. We cross-trained the heck out of our team members. We paid for their health care during the height of COVID. We started a 501(c)(3), we call it the Heart of Portillo's Fund. We did all this because, and I really appreciate my board because they let us invest in our team. We did all this because this is bringing to life our value system. This is how family behaves, right? Times are tough. You don't just go and lay off half your workforce. You actually take care of them. And this is not, I'm not a socialist. I like to think of myself as an enlightened capitalist because like those frontline people, right? They're our brand. And so they're the most important asset that we have as a company. So if you take great care of them, they will take great care of your business. During COVID, our comp was down 8%, but our EBITDA was up 8% year over year. And it's because we got unheard of productivity out of our team members, right? Just like if you were producing, make this up, but like 18 hot dogs an hour pre-COVID, during COVID, you were producing 28 hot dogs an hour. Because they felt loved and appreciated and protected and taken care of. And so, to me, that accelerated our cultural evolution by years.
And these are people who will remain loyal to you for sticking with them in the toughest of times.
And they tell their friends and family.
This is a place to work.
Like 40, 50% of our recruiting now is friends and family. We have our turnover rates are 20 to 30 percentage points lower than the industry at the hourly level. And it's because, it's not that, here's the secret. Treat people well. Take care of people. Don't think of them as a cost. Think of them as an investment in your brand. And when you do that, oh my gosh, great things happen.
Magic happens.
Yeah.
We have one from the crowd here. What would be your one advice as a leader if you had a snippet, a room full of people entering the business field? Answer this question. In order to be an ultra successful leader, you have to what? One thing.
Can I make you answer this after I answer?
Yeah.
All right. So my one thing is, if you really want to be a great successful leader, I believe you have to be a servant leader. You have to genuinely approach leadership with a humility and low ego, and you have to want to make other people successful. If your goal in life is to make yourself successful, you are going to suck as a leader. If your goal in life is to make other people successful, you might be pretty good.
Yeah, my simple strategy is to surround myself with the best people. And I know that sounds like, oh yeah, that's easy. No, like literally, I hire people and I look at them and I say, you have one job, which is to make me look like an idiot every day. And most of them do a good job of that. But it's, I want to surround myself with spectacular leaders in what they do. And literally, as we talked earlier, get the hell out of their way. Make it easy for them as opposed to hard for them.
Right.
And so that would be my answer.
Yeah.
Significant milestone. When at what point did you look and you said, okay, this signifies we're on the right path. My strategy is working. Our strategy is working. And I think we got this. Knowing you never are there. It's like chasing vapor. But what was a moment or two when you felt that?
I think, not to be super specific, but it was around 7 p.m. on October 20th, 2018. I'm sitting in, we had, taking a company public is a tortuous nightmare that is very challenging, and most people who, like most banking companies try to go public and they ultimately bail multiple times. So we had this window of opportunity, and up until the week before, we weren't sure we were going to do it. And I'm sitting in our bankers' offices in New York with my sponsors and army of bankers and lawyers. I'm a cheap bastard, so I'm thinking, my God, the meter is running right now to make this quick. But we're looking at the demand for our stock at our IPO, and it was 15.4 times oversubscribed. So we wanted to sell, I think it was like $400 million worth of equity, and we had a demand for $6 billion of stock. And that was after months of me talking to investors in one-on-one settings and just telling them the story and why I believe in Portillo's and why I think this is an amazing brand. And it was like, oh my God, this is real. This is happening. People really want to invest and back Portillo's. We're going to be a public company, and we're going to be it's a big deal.
This is happening.
Yeah,
this
is real.
I got another one from the crowd. Looking toward the future, what can we expect from Portillo's in the years to come? We talked about unit size, how many, but how do you see the brand either evolving or staying the same? And what a challenge that is, because people love it, don't move my cheese, but you also have to evolve.
Yeah. I would love us to be boringly consistent on amazing execution, right? I think that the best marketing you can do as a restaurant business is give people a great experience when they come into your restaurant. All the other stuff is cute and interesting, but just think about why you pick which restaurants you go to. It's because you had a good experience. Because most of the time when I go to this place, I'm gonna have a good experience. And so I would love for Portillo's, when it comes to the experience, to be boringly consistent and excellent. I think our menu will continue to slowly evolve. Like my team knows this, I believe in a Darwinian exercise on the menu. If you're not good, something else is gonna kill you. So like, we had a chicken sandwich that wasn't very good. We had a broiled chicken sandwich on a croissant. There's probably somebody here who loved it, but it was it was very low sales and very low guest satisfaction. We killed it, replaced it with a spicy chicken sandwich that is crazy good. We had a fish sandwich that it must have been 200 grams of carbs in every. It was like huge French bread with hugely breaded, thin little slice of meat, 4 ounces of tartar sauce. It was disgusting. So we killed it and evolved it. Our fish sandwich now is really good, really, really good. And so I think the menu, if there's a weak link, we'll eliminate it. We'll just keep getting better. But I want in 10 years people to say the beef has never changed. It's the exact same beef sandwich. The hot dogs are still every bit as good as they were. The French fries are still unbelievably good.
Do you think people's eating has changed in the, I always laugh in our business, maybe it's similar in your business. When people come to our places, stadiums and arenas in particular, they want a hot dog.
Yeah.
They want beer. Right. They want unhealthy items.
Yeah.
Now, every season survey we ever have done, it says we want more healthy items.
Right.
We'll put those healthy items on.
Right.
They don't really sell.
Yeah.
Because when people are going to Wrigley Field, they want to sit in that big beer garden that happens to have a baseball game going on, and they want a beer and a hot dog.
Yeah.
When people go to Portillo's, one of the things I've admired about Portillo's through the years is there's no veto vote. If you want to eat healthy, you can actually go to Portillo's and have a damn good salad.
Yeah.
Right? A damn good chicken sandwich. Do you find when people come to Portillo's, they're just, I'm coming in here for a splurge, the same way I'm going for a baseball game?
You're talking about, this is like, I'm very passionate about these topics. So, I worked at Kraft, sold food, right? We sold everything in the middle, everything in the middle of the grocery store. P.F. Chang's, obviously, Portillo. What people say and what they do are totally different.
You too?
Yeah, totally different. Wow. I spend tens of millions of dollars on research. It's like people want, non-GMO, and no. Here's what people want: something that tastes great. And then people I do believe want like minimally processed stuff. Like keep it simple, right? If there's a lot of things on the description that I don't understand what those words mean, that's probably a bad thing. So they want food that tastes great, that is simple. And so we try to do that. You said something really important about the veto vote, right? So like, what I think is still important is, I don't have a ton of vegans coming to my restaurants, but I do have some. And I do have some people that are coming with a friend or family member who might want to eat vegan. And I don't want to be an unwelcoming place to them. And so we have great salads. All of our salads are made in-house, fresh to order. But we also rolled out a garden dog, right? We talked about this briefly. I tried non-meat hot dogs and burgers for 3 years. And most of them, I'm not going to name names, most of them I find not edible, right? It's just not tasty. We're Portillo's. I want everything that you come and eat at Portillo's to be first delicious. And so we landed on a hot dog from the guys at Field Roast who do Dodger dogs. It's a really good hot dog. It's clean ingredient list. It's pea protein based with a bunch of spices. It doesn't have the snap because it doesn't have a natural skin casing. But like when you put all the Chicago style ingredients on it, it
pretty
tastes
damn good.
Really good. And so like, in my household, we do meatless Mondays. I don't tell the kids this, but I give them I give them my garden dogs. I slide it into them. They don't know any better. My wife can have a salad. I have a hot dog and a salad. But like, I want the place to be somewhere that everyone is comfortable. There's food that not only can you eat, but that you will enjoy. Like, it's not like, there's something on the menu that you can eat. It's disgusting, and I apologize.
And you're just filling your gas tank.
Right. It's got to be something that you can enjoy.
We have 2 minutes left, and I am going to ask you 2 lightning round questions.
Okay.
The first is from someone in the audience who actually answered it themselves, but also is asking it. Their opening was, I don't, do you? And they asked, they're curious which of your competitors you'd either most like to emulate, or who do you respect in the industry and why? It's probably longer than a 1-minute question. I happen to think you guys are in a league of your own. But what do you see out there that you're like, ooh, they do it really well?
Oh, I'm a huge admirer of 2 companies. I admire the way Chick-fil-A executes and In-N-Out execute. So, Chick-fil-A's shtick is this my pleasure thing, right? You guys all experience this. I have literally stood in line, asked for a cup of water, waiting for a little bit of attitude, and I get nothing but a smile and my pleasure. And I'm like, oh, jeez. Because I'm a very competitive person. And so my team, I would love to be as consistently excellent in operations as they are. And then In-N-Out is such a good business model, so simple. They do things so well. Everybody there has a smile on their face. I love the way you can look into their kitchens and it's spotless. And so I really respect the way the 2 of them execute. And I think there's elements of what they do that I would like to emulate.
Great answer. Great answer. Lastly, on the heels of such a delicious lunch, what's your go-to Portillo's order?
Yeah, beef dipped hot peppers. Dipped. If you don't dip your beef sandwich, it's life-changing. It's literally submerged in the gravy for a count of 2. Okay? If you're really adventurous, 5-second, it's called extra dip. But that's too much. Dipped. Eat it with like 10 napkins like over here.
You got to get the Chicago lean
Yes.
down. You have to be able, because otherwise it all ends up
nowhere
here, so.
near here.
Yeah, you just got to lean. So.
And commit to it.
I have a very strong back from the years of leaning of those sandwiches and dogs. Anyway, I know Margaret's going to come back up.
Yes.
Michael, we could talk forever.
Yeah.
I know everyone enjoyed hearing the Portillo's story and your story as much as I did, so thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you both so much. I wore my hat. You all have great
Appreciate
little
it.
hats and gift cards and all sorts of fun things. Thank you both so much for being here. My order is a combo sweet and hot.
I know.
Love it. One kid is a cheeseburger, the other is a hot dog. And then always the cake shake.
You're raising them right. That's all I'm going to
I
say.
know. They're obsessed. But this was really wonderful. Thank you all for being here. This is really our last program of 2022. I can't imagine a better way to end the year. Thank you all. I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. I hope you have a great month of December. And thank you again to Andy and Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.